Hello everyone and welcome to the Children's Museum Houston's Education Moments. I'm Allie, the life science educator, and as you can tell, I'm not at the museum right now. I'm actually making this film at home. So today, I thought we should use some of our math skills to create some healthy banana bread muffins. What you're going to need to do that is a few mixing bowls, some measuring tools. I also got myself like a whisk and a spatula, and then you're going to need some baking ingredients. Since I said it was banana bread muffins, I bet you can make an assumption that my first ingredient is going to be my banana. I only have one, and if you notice, it's pretty ripe. Then your other ingredients are going to be baking soda, flour, salt, sugar, some butter, some milk, some vanilla extract, and eggs. Okay, while y'all go to gather those ingredients, I just wanted to take a second to recognize our sponsor for this video. It's Texas Children's Hospital. They actually sponsor our Power Science Lab, which is nestled inside of Power Play, our health and fitness exhibit. And Power Science Lab focuses on nutrition and how our body functions. And so I thought banana bread would be a great way to actually talk about, what we use in our bodies and how healthy it is. So on a safety note, I do want to say that you should make sure you should do all of your baking with adult supervision. So you don't want to be baking alone at home. Make sure you have an adult with you. Okay, the reason why I wanted to do banana bread today is because I have this very ripe banana, and I only have one. So I went on the internet and I started looking for a banana bread recipe, but most of them required more than one banana. I did find one recipe that required 2 bananas, and so what I'm going to do is take that recipe and half all of the ingredients in that recipe because I only have half the amount of bananas it requires. So the first thing you're going to do is you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees. So I'm going to click my bake and click to start preheating. And I'm actually going to show you the recipe that I picked up. If you see, this is my Pillsbury banana bread recipe. It requires sugar, butter, eggs, bananas, milk, vanilla extract, flour, baking soda, and salt. So if you happen to have 2 bananas, you can actually just use this recipe as it is. But I only have one, so we're going to be halving all of those ingredients. Also, let's say you wanted to make more banana bread. You really like banana bread and you have actually like 4 bananas. You could double that recipe. What that means is you could multiply everything by 2 instead of what I'm about to do, which is divide everything by 2. So we're going to look at the dry and wet ingredients separately. So I'm actually going to show you our dry ingredients list, and I've already done the math, but we're going to talk through it in this video. So if you see, the first dry ingredients is 2 cups of flour. So 2 cups of flour, but I have to divide that by 2. So 2 divided by 2 actually looks like 2 over 2. And so whenever you have the same number in the numerator and the denominator, like 3 over 3 or 8 over 8, or in this case, 2 over 2, that actually translates to being 1 because so 2 divided by 2 actually equals 1. So all I need is 1 cup of flour. So I'm going to go ahead and measure that out. And I'm going to add all my dry ingredients to a bowl. So here we go. I'm going to use my little spoon, kind of pour it into the cup. Oh my goodness. Sometimes while you're baking, you might make a little bit of a mess, but that's okay. That's what the fun in baking. So I have my 1 cup of flour. I'm going to add it to my bowl. Awesome. I laid back on my flour. And the next dry ingredient. So the next dry ingredient it requires is half a teaspoon of salt. So this is actually where our math gets a little bit tricky. So 1/2 divided by 2 actually means 1/2 times 1 over 2. So what you're going to do is you're actually going to take that 2 and put a 1 on top of it and put it in its denominator. So we're going to have 1 over 2 times 1 over 2. And we're actually going to multiply across. So 1 times 1 equals 1. And 2 times 2 equals 4. So I actually, in order, because I'm halving the recipe, I only need 1/4 teaspoon of salt. So I'm going to go ahead and open up my salt. I have my 1/4 teaspoon measurer. I'm going to measure that out. Awesome. And add my 1/4 teaspoon of salt. The next ingredient we're going to look at is our baking soda. It requires 1 teaspoon. So 1 teaspoon divided by 2 is 1 over 2. So I need 1/2 a teaspoon of baking soda. So I'm actually going to get my 1/2 teaspoon. And let's say you don't have 1/2 a teaspoon to measure, and all you have is that 1/4 teaspoon. You can use 2/4 teaspoons. Well, that's some more math that we don't need to do, because I do have a 1/2 teaspoon. I'm going to measure out my baking soda and add it to my dry ingredients. And the last dry ingredient we actually need is going to be 3/4 cup of sugar. Oh man, this is going to require some real math. So 3 over 4 times 2 is actually the same as 3 over 4, or sorry, divided by 2. That's what I meant to say. So 3 over 4 divided by 2 is actually equal to 3 over 4 times 1 over 2. And we're going to do that same thing we did up here with the salt. We're going to multiply across. So 3 times 1 is actually 3. 4 times 2 is 8. So I need 3/8 cups of sugar. I don't really have a 3/8 cup measurer. If you're lucky, you might have one at home. But what I'm actually going to use is some critical thinking skills. So I know that 3/8 is less than 4/8 by just a little bit. So, and I know 4/8, when you reduce that fraction down, actually equals 1/2. So what I can do instead is I'm going to take a 1/2 a cup measurer that I have, which is right here, and I'm actually going to use that as my measure, and I'm just going to make it so I don't fill up the cup all the way. I'm going to leave a little bit lower than the full cup so that it's more like 3/8 of sugar. Also, who doesn't like a little bit extra sweet banana bread? So I'm going to add my sugar to my 1/2 a cup. There we go. And I'm going to show you guys, if you look, it's right about a few, like a fingernail-ish under the rim. So it actually isn't quite 1/2 a cup, just like 3/8 isn't quite 1/2 a cup. So I'm going to add that to my dry ingredients. Awesome. So I've done all my dry ingredients. I'm going to set them aside. There we go. And I'm going to move on to my wet ingredients. So the first wet ingredient that is called for is 2 mashed ripe bananas. But I only have 1 banana, so what I'm going to go ahead and do, like we said, 2 divided by 2 is actually the same as 2 over 2, which equals 1. So I only need 1 banana, which is good because that's all I have. So I'm going to use my bigger bowl. I'm actually going to peel my banana. And I'm going to break it up into small pieces when I throw it into my bowl because it's going to be easier to mash. And that's what it wants me to do. I'm actually going to use a fork to mash the banana, but you can use whatever you want. You can probably use a spoon or a potato masher maybe. And I'm just mashing my banana so it gets into a nice consistency of like banana mush. Ugh. Okay, the next wet ingredient I need is going to be 2 eggs. But remember, we're halving this recipe. So I actually have to divide 2 by 2, just like I did with that banana. Now, so 2 divided by 2, again, is the same as 2 over 2, which means I'm actually going to only need 1 egg, which is great. So I'm going to open up my eggs. I'm going to crack one into my, there we go. And I'm going to throw my eggshell away. Awesome. The next wet ingredient I need is going to be, there we go, half a cup of butter. But remember, I'm halving my recipe. So I need to take 1/2 and divide it by 2. So 1 over 2 divided by 2 is the same as 1 over 2 times 1 over 2. And then we're going to multiply across. So 1 times 1 is still 1, and 2 times 2 is 4. So we actually need 1/4 cup of butter. And I have my butter right here, and I'm really lucky because my butter actually measures for me. It tells me 1/4 is half a stick. So I'm going to open my butter and measure half a stick. Here we go. And add it to my wet ingredients. There we go. Half a stick. Ooh, it's kind of slimy. I'm going to add it in small amounts so that it's easier to mix together with the other wet ingredients. There we go. And then one more little, there we go. I'm going to use my fork to kind of get that off my knife. Awesome. Then the next wet ingredient I will be using is going to be vanilla extract. And I'm going to need 1 teaspoon. But remember, I'm halving it. So 1 divided by 2 is really the same as 1 over 2, which means I only need half a teaspoon of vanilla extract. So I'm going to measure out my vanilla extract with my half teaspoon measurer. There we go. Into my wet ingredients. Awesome. And the last requirement we need is for our wet ingredients is going to be milk. We need 1/3 cup of milk. But remember, we're halving it. So 1/3 divided by 2 is the same as 1 over 3 times 1 over 2. And we're going to multiply across. So 1 times 1 is still 1. And then 3 times 2 is 6. So I need 1/6 cup of milk. And I'm in that same situation I was with the sugar. I don't actually have 1/6 measuring tool. So instead what I'm going to do is it asks for 1/3 cup of milk. I have a 1/3 cup measurer, and I'm actually only going to fill it halfway, knowing that that's actually 1/6 cup. So I'm going to add half to my 1/3 cup, meaning 1/6 cup is actually being added. And I'll show you. You can see that I filled it up about halfway. I'm going to add it to my wet ingredients, and then I'm going to mix it all together. Instead of using my fork, I'm actually going to use my spatula now. And do a nice, or not spatula, my whisk. Mixing it all together, and then I'm going to slowly add my dry ingredients. So here's my dry ingredients that we already measured out. And then just kind of sprinkle it over nice and slow. So not to make too much of a mess. There we go. And I'm going to mix it all up. Oh. You sometimes mixing for banana bread actually makes you use a lot of muscles. There we go. Awesome. So I'm going to use my spatula. There we go. To get some of that batter off of my whisk. Even better. The batter is better. Sorry. I like really punny jokes. I don't know if you've noticed yet. Okay, so I have my batter right here. As you can see, I'm actually going to see. There we go. And I'm going to pour it into my muffin pans. But before I do that, I'm actually going to spray my muffin pans with a little bit of nonstick spray. If you don't have nonstick spray, that's okay. You can actually use some of the butter around it to help lubricate it so it stays, so that the bread can slip out nice and easily. I'm going to spray it over my sink because I don't like to make too much of a mess. There we go. And I'm actually going to fill each cup a little over halfway. Again, more fractions. So I'm going to use that spatula, and I'm actually going to start filling those cups about halfway. And once they're full, I'm going to end up putting it in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes to cook. Once that oven, preheats all the way up. And then how you can tell that your muffin is actually done is you can stick like a toothpick right in the middle of your muffin. And if there's nothing gooey attached to the toothpick and it comes out clean, that means the muffin is done and ready to come out of the oven. Okay, guys, I'm going to go ahead and finish filling this up and put it in the oven to eat. I've been having such a great time with everyone. I hope you all have been having a good time too. Thank you so much for learning with me, and remember to check back regularly for more educator moments. If you decide to bake this banana bread or banana muffins, go ahead and post a picture of your results to our Facebook page, okay? Now I'm going to go ahead and finish this up and put these in the oven. Thanks, guys. Bye.